Okay, so just to give a brief overview, this was the blindfolded run I did in PoPRuns 6. Where I did the Windmills IL blindfolded and Sam was commentating, so you can see I'm wearing my jumper backwards. That's what I use for my blindfold. That's one of the first things I can start with. If you're wondering how I was making myself blindfolded, I wore my jumper backwards and then put on the hood, and that was my blindfold. If you're wondering, did any light come through? Um, Technically, if I looked at a bright light, some light came through, but I could see nothing in terms of looking at my monitor. And on top of that, I had my eyes closed anyway, so there was nothing like that. Um, anyway, so here I'm doing a precise skip. You can see that I'm using a keyboard only setup, but what I don't want to do is accidentally move my mouse. So actually, um, I had completely unbound my mouse entirely, or specifically the mouse movement, so that I just couldn't accidentally move my mouse. Here, this is actually funny. You're supposed to die and fall in, sorry, jump and fall into this cutscene. Um, but I kind of mistimed it and I jumped way too early, but it just about worked out. So I got really lucky because like 1 or 2 frames earlier, and that wouldn't have worked. Um, so this part of the run went rather well, but as you'll see, later parts of the run had some mistakes. Um, so in particular, the main reason I wanted to kind of go through this run again is to cover my thought process while I was making the mistakes, because I think that bit's going to be really interesting. But in the meantime, if you haven't seen it, uh, then you can watch this run for the first time. Otherwise, it's a bit of a refresher. So I'm navigating a 3D environment with a blindfold. Very tough. Every single action I'm doing here has been planned out in advance. Although, fun fact, I did not. I think before this run, I managed to do it once successfully the entire run. Because that's just how tight it was. Just me learning it. So I pretty much got it on the pressure. With the pressure of doing it on stream, I got it almost the first time ever here. Okay, so after this fight and after we heal the fertile ground is when it gets really interesting, which are so we'll get to the main things that I want to talk about. But here we're just spamming the same combo, and then afterwards will be something interesting because, of course, since the movement in this fight is RNG based, I don't know where I am right now, and this arena is circular, so it's really hard to kind of move around and just determine based on audio. It's really hard to determine where you are. But luckily, Elica has this ability that we call GPS, where if you set a waypoint, which I set in advance of the run, that's allowed. I said that before the run even started. If you set a waypoint and you press the E button, then she points you. She literally points the camera to where you need to go. So um, we do that, and then we jump down and we heal the fertile ground. And after this is when it gets interesting because that's when we're going to start collecting light seeds, and that's when I'm going to start making mistakes as well. But in the meantime, let's get through this cutscene. We can, I suppose, enjoy Sam's commentary.
Light seed, that's when time stops.
This is not Sam live, by the way. This is him from 4 years ago.
See, you don't always have to wait for things.
So far, nothing has gone wrong. He's not gotten off track a single time yet. He's told me in practice that he has gotten off track several times in a single run, but always managed to find his way back to where he needs to be, so I'm curious to see if that happens. Hopefully it doesn't, in the name of speed.
You shouldn't wait.
Yeah?
But the opposite of speed is us having to sit here and watch Elika tease the prince. Because this game is awkwardly sexually charged for no apparent reason.
Excellent. Okay, so here you can see that when I went on this, actually, let me go back just a second. The keybinds aren't working, and that's fine. So I will be pausing just to explain some of these things because it will get interesting. Okay, so here I jump, and when I land, you can see I'm kind of on the left side of this beam. So the reason I drop down here is because when I stand up again, I want to be in the middle. Otherwise, this next bit doesn't work properly. But for some reason, even though I did that, it still didn't work properly. So what I want you to pay attention to is there's this ledge here, right here, and just pay attention to the fact that it's quite small. Well, just pay attention to the size of that ledge. And then here, I'm supposed to wall run up and then jump, land here, and then do another jump. But to this day, I don't know why this didn't work. I ended up in a different position, and I jumped down. Okay, so now I don't know where I am. Well, I know that I'm probably on this platform, and then I walk off, but then I hold W too long, and he stands up again. But I can hear the animation that he walked off, but I can't hear that he stood up again. So at this point, I don't know that I'm standing. I think I'm on this ledge. And you can see this because I try to walk to the very side, and then I go like this, and I press jump. I jump in place because I'm trying to stand up so that I can jump back. So that I can jump back to where the pole is. But of course, I was already standing. So now I'm really confused. Now I have no idea where I am because what I just did just didn't work at all. So now I'm thinking, am I on this platform or am I on the previous platform? So remember that previous platform where I said pay attention to its size and observe that this one is much bigger. So you can kind of see, maybe you can't see it anymore, but pay attention that this platform is, because it's round or it goes around, it's much bigger. So the reason I walked all the way to the left there is because I'm gauging how big the platform is. And because I was able to walk so far left without hitting any obstacles, I concluded, okay, I'm definitely on this platform and not on the previous one because this one's bigger. And that's why I'm able to do that. So now I'm trying the same thing as before, but this time much more successfully. And so there we go. That's the first thing that went wrong, and I've recovered. But now, because things went wrong, I respawned, but I don't know what direction I'm facing. I don't know if I respawned in where I expected to, but I just guessed that I'm probably facing this direction, and I just tried cracking on with it, and it just worked out. So that's good. But I want to briefly talk about the psychology of this because, you know, things just went terribly wrong, and this was basically the first time I even finished this run in the first place. So I'm still thinking about all the things that went terribly wrong. And see that little jump in place there? That was not supposed to happen. The reason it happened was because I wasn't focusing. I was still paying attention to the mistakes that I just made. That's what I was thinking about. That jump was not supposed to happen. Magically, I was not expecting it. Somehow this setup still worked. So I was actually quite surprised by this. But now, so I was thinking about my previous mistake, and that led me to make another mistake. Somehow it worked out, but now I'm thinking about my second mistake. And because I'm thinking about my second mistake, I forget to turn around on this pole, and I end up jumping to my death. And so you can kind of see how one mistake led to another one, and then that one led to another one, and so on. Okay, so now I'm back here again, and I have to retrace my steps. But again, this setup is not quite the same thing as what happens in the real thing when you do it non-stop. And so last time I jumped I jumped to the beam that's in the bottom right corner. You can't quite see it, but this time I jumped to a different place by accident, and I got this light seed, and I ended up somewhere else entirely. So now I strongly suspect that this is where I am, but I'm not sure. And again, I'm kind of walking left and right to try and gauge how big the platform that I'm hanging from is, because that tells me a lot about where I am. That confirms. So I go all the way left, and I know I have to be on this beam. And I stand up, but now I don't know which direction I'm facing. Am I facing this way or am I facing the other way? I don't know that. Um, and so at this point in the commentary, Sam says, "Oh, he seems to have figured out where he is." Um, and then when I do this, he says, "Oh, maybe not." And the reason why he says maybe not is obviously I've just walked in a seemingly completely random direction, but actually there was a reason why I did that. I knew where I was, but I walked off because I didn't know which direction I was facing. Had I been facing the opposite direction, then there would have been basically no movement and I would have been able to hear that. But because I was facing this direction, I could hear a lot of movement. I could hear that I went off the ledge. And so now I definitely knew where I am, and I even knew what direction I'm facing. So when I come back to the beam, I reset camera, and now I definitely know where I am. I definitely know what direction the camera is facing. So we're back on track. But again, as I talked about earlier, mistakes, just psychologically speaking, they cause you to think about the mistakes, and then that causes you to lose concentration, and then you think about other mistakes, and then you think about other mistakes. Sorry, and then you make another mistake, and then you make another mistake, and so on. And so, yes, I've now recovered and I'm back on track now, but I'm still thinking about all those mistakes I just made. And also, I'm thinking about, hang on, right here, there's supposed to be a light seed, but I picked it up already earlier by accident. But now I'm thinking, like, did I pick up the right one? Like, I don't know, right? So, maybe I can figure it out, but it's still, the point is, the situation is stressful. And so, as I'm thinking about all these things, once again here, I mess up my inputs, and this one was actually so subtle, Sam didn't even get to mention it. Here, I'm supposed to jump twice, and when I land here, I'm supposed to walk onto this beam, but I was just mashing space, and I accidentally pressed jump one too many times, and this happened. And again, now I have no idea what direction I'm facing, so I'm just literally looking for any ledge on this platform. I walked in a random direction, and then I just walk all the way to the left, and I'm like, okay, I'm on this beam now. But then I stand up, and again, I don't know which direction I'm facing, but I guess that I'm probably facing in this direction. And then in the stress of the moment, I completely forgot that there's a pillar here, but which is why I stayed so long on that pillar. But then I remembered, oh right, there's a pillar here. So then I was like, okay, fine, proceed forward. And so that's this part of the run. And then we're going to fast travel, and then for a while I'm not going to make another mistake again. I get my cursor all the way to the left of using my controller so that I know exactly where it is, and then I fast travel. So I'm not going to make another mistake for a while, but I will still make another mistake. Here I actually have to move quite quickly, because otherwise Elika is going to drop down and she will offset my position, and then I'll get lost. So I have to move quickly, but not too quickly, because if I move too quickly, then that will be before the camera has the chance to reset. So just a neat thing there that you probably wouldn't even notice if you weren't explicitly told. Okay, and here comes the point where I'm going to make another mistake. So here, oh, right after this blue plate. So I die on purpose here. Okay, so here, I double jump, and then I double jump again, and then I do the same thing back. I double jump, but the next one's supposed to be a single jump, but I forgot, and I did a double jump. And because of that, the position is a little bit off. I almost made it work, but the prince just didn't like me and he didn't wall run up. And so now again, I don't know what direction I'm facing. I'm just traveling in random directions until I can get onto this ledge. And then I actually had a safety back, and Sam correctly I guessed that I had a safety backup for this because I had got lost here before and I just couldn't figure out how to get back on this platform if I did get lost, because I could get into this corner, but the same thing would happen as you saw in this run. He would just not wall run up. It's weirdly precise, actually, which is why I had a safety backup, and that's why I did something very specific here. So with that wall run, that was my setup for getting back up here. And at this point, once again, I know where I am. We're back on track. You know, I'm still stressing about, like, did I forget any seeds and so on. I'm still stressing about my mistakes, but at least for now, I'm not totally lost anymore. We're back on track. So here I wait for this little animation with Elika to finish. I could stand up beforehand, but then I wouldn't know whether I stood up successfully or not, so it's safer to just wait. These things you normally don't even think about when you can see. Here I'm saving because if I failed this next strat, basically I'm supposed to do a death warp. So I'm supposed to get this seed, and at the very end of this platform you can stand on it, but for some reason it doesn't count and you go all the way back. And the reason I saved is in case I failed that and then I would get stuck on that platform. But fun fact, I actually didn't practice the variant where that would happen. So if I had failed it and if I had had to load my save file, I would have loaded the save file, but then I would have had no idea what to do after that point because I hadn't practiced it. So I would have just had to figure it out on the fly. But anyway, that's seed 38, so 7 more seeds and that will be the end of the run. But there's still something interesting at the end of this one that I want to talk about as well. So I do a setup here to get to the next platform. Normally, most of these things don't require a setup, but when you can't see, they absolutely do. Here is another one of those weird walls. Like if I tried to just wall run here, he just wouldn't do it. He would try to horizontally wall run on the wall he's next to instead. So I have to take one step back and then jump. And then I jump towards this wall again and grind down. That's to reset my position. Yes, he's a bit diagonal, but that's intended. The diagonal angle is the same every time. Then here I'm supposed to trade places with Elika and take 2 steps forward. I only took 1 because I forgot the second one. Or I guess I was just too stressed. But luckily, somehow that still worked and I still got the seed. Here I'm listening for this wheel. There are certain patterns. Like it has a long spinning animation and then a short one. So I'm listening for which one I'm on when it's in certain places. For some reason I can jump diagonally. And we grind down here to seed 43. Now, it's nearly over, just 2 more seeds, but actually one of the hardest parts of the run, which probably no one even realizes is hard, is right here, with only 2 seeds remaining, because it's incredibly easy to get lost here. And let me show you why. So, see this platform? It's like, it has this 45-degree angle, so it doesn't have a right angle, so there are 2 walls. And it doesn't have a right angle, but it has this 45-degree angle. And likewise, the ledge on this platform, it's also got like all these 45-degree angles. And that's just really hard to navigate when you don't know what you're doing. For example, I can't just walk into a wall, or I can't just hold forward until I walk into a wall and then kind of deduce where I am, because that's not going to happen. The wall is just going to push me outwards and I'll just keep walking. And so everyone else is probably thinking, oh, this is seed number 44, but I'm thinking, like, this is one of the toughest parts of the run, because if I don't execute my movement here precisely correctly, I have some very precise jumps that I planned, but if I got lost here, I literally didn't have a plan for how I would find my way out of here, out of this platform. And I tried it, and even in practice, I couldn't find my way after getting lost. So I really desperately needed not to get lost here. And so I really needed to not mess up the fact that this is a double jump, for example, and this thing doesn't help, because if you don't like get all the jumps exactly correctly, then you'll just crash into it, and that will make you go in a random direction. You can see this ledge around me. It's like, it's not nice. If I'm doing the technique that I did before, where I'm kind of walking left and right on the ledge until I hit something, or, you know, to gauge the size of the platform, there's nothing to hit. It just goes around. So it's pretty much impossible for me to get to the right point if I get lost, or if, for example, I forget to double jump here and then I fall to my death. But luckily, I figured it out, and I double jumped, and then another jump, and then that's seed 45. And at this point, the run's over. That's time. Everyone can see that's seed 45, and that's time. But the funny thing is, I'm the only person who doesn't yet know whether I finished the run or not, because I don't know if I got all 45 seeds. So that's quite funny. So you can see that the first thing I do is I take off my blindfold and I open the map to check, and it says 45 light seeds. Now I know that I finished the run, and that's when I get happy. So yeah. Anyway, that's the run. I thought that there's some additional commentary I could provide that couldn't have possibly been provided at the time, because obviously Sam did a fantastic job, by the way, but he couldn't get into my head. Obviously he didn't know what I was thinking when I was making all the mistakes and so on. So I wanted to go through this again with you guys.